Oh, I'm live. Oh, I was going to do this stuff. Because I'm plagued by bad audio. So I'm going to try headphones and see if this helps with the white noise. Hopefully this helps with the white noise. I can barely hear it in the background, so hopefully this helps. I'm late getting on because I was scrambling again. And so I'm going to open the chat. No one knows I'm here. Nobody knows the trouble I see. Nobody knows there's something. I didn't want to sing that. What was I singing earlier? I totally forgot what I was singing. Well, here's the chat. I'll put that there. I'll put this here. Hey, sweetheart, how are you? I'll put this here. And I'll put that up here. See here. No, I don't want you full. There we go. Yeah. No, you over here. Yeah. And then you there. Yes. And then you there. Yeah. And then you here. Very cool. I think that works. Hello, Denise. How are you, darling? I'm trying headphones so I can try and defeat my battle with bad audio. But I was scrambling before. I'm feeling better than I was, so that's good. I want to give people a couple minutes to get here. Yesterday I felt like crap. My voice still sounds terrible. But, well, since no one, well, I mean, not no one, you're here, Denise. Nice. Nice. I'm going to eat a piece of turkey because I didn't really get to eat. I was doing things. Like, oh, I had 2 hours. And I'm like, oh, I got 2 hours to do everything. And then next thing I know, it's 5 minutes. I do this every time. I probably shouldn't be eating that close to the mic. That's a hideous sound. Oh my gosh. Hopefully you can't hear that too much. Well, let me just let people know, because you checked out that skit, D9, Balaki. It's Blake. Because I knew someone named Jacqueline I used to work with, and I used to call her Jake Wellen, and she would get so pissed. I wonder if she ever will see one of these. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. I wonder if she'll ever see one of these lives. It'd be so funny. Jake Wellen. Where Jake Wellen at? I mean, that sounds terrible to try and do the accent, but you know it's a funny sketch. And of course, I didn't mean that in any sort of way. Hello. Hello. We're doing live now. For those of you who see these things. Anyway, hopefully the audio gets better this time. You know? So, anyway, I'll put this here. It feels like I can hear everything right now. I can hear. I don't know if it's just the headphones or what. And I don't know if see, now it's, anyway, it's whatever. I don't even care. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't, right? Let's see if anyone else came. No, it's just you and me. Oh, someone else. Someone says, oh, hi, Saturn. It's another Saturn person. Audio sounds good. Good. Okay, well, people will be able to, we're already past high time. We're 9 minutes past. So I'll go ahead and, probably just start looking at stuff. But I thought last night's talk about retrograde went really well. It's just that I was low energy Jeb. Like Trump used to call Jeb Bush low energy Jeb. I was low energy Jeb. Obviously, I prefer someone else, but my mama, I call her my orb mommy. But I'll have plenty of time to talk about her. Anyway, I thought the retrograde thing went well. It's just that I wasn't feeling well. And it's really good information. So I should, everyone should watch that if you didn't get to watch it. Because, with astrology, we're interpreting astronomical phenomena. Astronomical phenomena. Say that 5 times. Astronomical phenomena, astronomical phenomena. I'm sorry, I'm goofy right now. Astronomical phenomena. Hi, Lizzie. Hello, Hector. Hello, my friend. We were doing tongue twisters. Astrological phenomena, astrological. That's what we're doing with. I hope the audio sounds good. I guess I'll see after the fact. So, I barely hear white noise. Why's it got to be white noise, right? Anyway, so what are we doing with astrology? We're interpreting symbolically astronomical phenomena. It's going to make me laugh every time I say it. Anyway, but that's what we're doing. And so it's just another form of divination, right? People read tea leaves and bones or whatever. And in ancient Mesopotamia, they would read livers of sacrificed animals. They'd cut this thing open and look at the liver. What do I see here? I tell you what, Bobby, what's in this liver here? I think I see propane and propane accessories. I'm goofy right now. But, and you know what? I probably shouldn't play with toys, like with the mic right here, because it sounds like, anyway. But you see, interpreting astronomical phenomena, it's just another form of divination. And I always joke around that divination works, in my opinion, this is my understanding, because we live in an interdependent and relativistic universe, right? So under those conditions, all things are dependent on each other for their existence. And all things are analogical to all other things, which implies that anything can be symbolic of anything else, right? So theoretically, you could read your own vomit or feces if you were so inclined. I prefer astrology, but that's just me. Because we have 6,000 years of interpretation to draw off of. Yeah, I guess 6. 6? I don't know. It really depends on what you call, if we go back to the Mulapin. But this is another thing about history. We should do a whole thing about ancient Mesopotamia one time, because that's my obsession. But right now we're going to talk about transits. And this is part of, I still sound sniffly and sicky. And like I said last night, I sound like Gollum, I'm always coughing and clearing my throat because that's a Saturn thing. And it's other things too. Anyway, so May is so wild. Oh my God. It's jam-packed. So I put my little notes up here first so you can see what's going on. Hi, Alicia. Hello, sweetheart. And you can all feel free to put your birth information up, because we're going to look at your charts after we go over the transits, because horoscopes, it's part of how we see how transits are applicable and practical. I just messed up my hair. It looked fine before. Stop looking at yourself in the camera. What are you, a narcissist? We throw that word around all the time. But for those of us who grew up with it, it's sort of a different thing. Well, you can see cluster B stuff in the chart. I've had, I'm bipolar, number 1. And I come from a family of mental illness, I've done yours before, but you'd love it. Well, it looks like it's just us here, so, but I come from a family of mental illness, and I should stop saying, right? But I come from, and I say, right. But I come from a family of mental illness, and I've had a lot of clients and friends who've struggled with mental illness. And I frequently see aspects of the moon to Saturn and or Pluto, but especially moon to Saturn. So moon conjunct Saturn, moon square Saturn, especially the hard aspects. Moon conjunct Saturn, square Saturn, opposite Saturn, right? So anyway, excuse me. And some of you may remember that if a planet is opposite the sun, it is, if an outer planet, a superior planet, that's Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. I'm leaving out the outer planets for now. But if those are opposite the sun, then they're necessarily retrograde. So you'd love to get a reading. Well, throw your birth information up, Hector. So anyway, so these are the transits that we're going down with. I put April 29th because it's coming up here. But you see, we're going to start off here with Mars in Cancer, sextile Uranus in Taurus. So, of course, Uranus has been in Taurus for a while. But this will be an interesting one to look at. So this is happening in just a few days. And then we have Pluto stationing retrograde in Aquarius here. Oops, I can hear my chair moving. So that's probably not a good sign. But that's an interesting one. So Pluto's going to be retrograde here for a while. And then we've got Venus currently in Gemini, square Neptune in Pisces on May the 4th. On May the 5th, Cinco de Drinko, people say here in the United States. I mean, it's supposed to be, primarily a Mexican holiday, but I think the United States celebrates it more because, independence really was the 16th of September. But there was, the Battle of Puebla that happened on May the 5th, and so that gets celebrated later. Excuse me. But so on May the 5th, we're going to have a lunar eclipse in Scorpio. May the 7th, Venus enters Cancer. I have Venus in Cancer. May the 9th, the Sun will conjoin Uranus in Taurus. On May 13th, we got Venus in Cancer, trine Saturn in Pisces. On the 14th, we've got Mercury stationing direct in Taurus after a fun little retrograde period. Excuse me. And then on May the 15th, we have Mars in Cancer, trine Neptune in Pisces. May the 16th, this is a fun one. Jupiter enters Taurus here and will be there for a while. May the 20th, Mars enters Leo. Look at this. All these planets are entering signs, right? I'll have to enter me some things. Excuse me, I don't mean to be rude. See, I'm doing the Gollum thing. Anyway. And then the Sun enters Gemini, which is my season. It's Gemini season. Hooray. And then May 22nd, the next day, is my birthday. Because I'm 1 degree Gemini. So this is wonderful fun. And you see, when we're in Gemini season, that's my 5th house. And so it's always a bit of fun for me. Although last Gemini season, I was just getting over COVID. So, last Gemini season, I was just getting over COVID. So hopefully this one is more eventful. But I haven't gotten out a whole lot, I just started getting back on dating apps and stuff, which is very Gemini. And I want to meet a couple, and I just matched with a couple not too long ago. But because I'm not interested in, getting too involved. Like if I was going to be involved with someone, they'd have to be sort of aligned with the same, I'm going to say spiritual path, even though I wouldn't even call it that, and not even the same. They would have to be working on, self-development or consciousness in some way. If you can't have intellectual love, because there's lots of types of love, right? There's physical love, which I need that. I need physical attraction. I'm sort of shallow. I'm very shallow, in fact. I need a partner who's at least equally attractive. Wow. I mean, I got weird standards of attraction. I like weird people. But then there's emotional love, right? You need that emotional reciprocity, that feeling of safety, that feeling of connection with someone, where you feel safe with someone and you feel fulfilled with someone and that they understand you. But then there's the understanding from mental love, which is something that's even harder. And it's hard to have all these three, but that's sort of an understanding, intellectually, but also, in terms of goals and purpose and things like that. In terms of, philosophical affinities or whatever. But anyway, let's get into the thick of this. And I'm going to, wait, where'd my mouse go? My mouse got trapped in the mousetrap. Who remembers that game, Mousetrap? Mousetrap. It's like a Rube Goldberg machine, isn't that what they call it? I hate when this all does this stuff. Please, why do you got to do this whole thing? Why you got to do stuff to me? I hate the window. It's really terrible. Oh, okay. Well, you don't need to put Osina Loa. Look at you. You were born in 1900. What? Hector, you weren't born in 1900, my darling. You would be 123 years old. You were not born in 1900, sweetheart. What was the, or is that like a relative or a grandfather or something like that? But otherwise, Hector, please put, you remember Mousetrap for sure. I was not patient enough. I would just look at it and it would be cool for 5 minutes and I'd move on. So Hector, please either tell me the correct year of that birth year, because it says 1900. And I don't think that would be accurate for you, or let me know if that's a relative that you're working with or something. So anyway, oh my gosh, I just yelled. Chill out, Frankie. Jesus. So April 29th here. Let's pull up the chart. Let's animate it. Why do you have to move? Why does everything move? Why do you all have to move on me? Why do you all move? See, I'm so parched that my voice is like permanent vocal fry. Excuse me, and my nose is cold like a wet dog. I mean, I don't know what I mean. So you'll see here, we're going to the 29th and the 29th. And here we're going to have Mars here making a fun little sextile to Uranus. Now, it's a brief transit. And sextiles are, they're typically the nicer, the lesser of the nice. Not so nice as trines, but, kind of nice. And like I said, this one it'll be perfecting on this day, but it'll be short relatively, a couple of days each way. So some keywords that I wanted to say about Uranus, it's the unexpected. I think I've talked a little bit before about where so Hector is confirming it's 1900. So, but Hector, were you born in 1900? Because that would make you 123 years old. And I find that unlikely. I find that unlikely. Are you 123 years old, Hector? Or is someone who you're trying to get us to look at 123 years old? Oh, 1990. Sorry. Oh my gosh. Oh gosh. Hi, Ashlyn. Hello, sweetheart. You've basically been a hermit. I know, me too. I need to get the F out of here. I need to get there and I need to become a Chinese finger trap. I mean, for good or for I want to be a unicorn, baby. It's been a long time. I've kept myself under wraps for a while, After dealing with transitioning and a bad relationship and all that. At least now I don't think I'd fall for the same bullshit again. I think I have a little bit more self-respect now. And a lot more confidence now that I'm out, although it's fucking scary for trans people right now. I'm not going to get into all that shit, but we'll get into the thick of this stuff because this is important. This is your life. This is your life. And it's ending 1 minute at a time. I think that was Fight Club. I said it like George W. Bush for some reason. Anyway, Uranus is the unexpected. It's rebelliousness. It's rebellion. It could be explosive, I think I've talked about where the meaning comes from a guy named John Varley, right? And he did experiments himself, which is what you have to do with these newfangled outer planets to determine how it worked. And of course, he found out it was unexpected bad events. In fact, his house burned down But he was quite excited about the whole thing because he figured out some of Uranus's significations, at least for him, and they work for all of us, right? So the unexpected, and we put this whole nature, or this whole notion, rather, of revolution and rebellion and yada, yada, yada. And then Mars is aggressive, isn't it? He's violent. He's quarrelsome. He's engaged in conflict. So, a pretty obvious phrase here for Mars and Uranus contacts would be, violent rebellions. And the last time that we had these in the same sign was May 11th of 2021. And around this time, we were seeing pretty heavy conflict in Gaza, in Israel, Palestine. And 103 people killed in Gaza. Excuse me, I don't mean to sniffle. 23 of them children, goodness. 103 Palestinians killed. 7 Israelis were killed, but 103 Palestinians. The Al-Aqsa Mosque was raided. I think this was Ramadan also. And we've been having also at the same time right now heavy conflicts with Israel, Palestine. And I think just since the start of the year, there have been over 100 Palestinians killed. And Al-Aqsa Mosque has been raided again during Ramadan, and again, illegal settlements being pushed. And it's been getting pretty wild. There's been wild protests too in Israel over other stuff. Over Benjamin Netanyahu trying to essentially make himself a dictator. So anyway, but what does this mean for you? Well, you'll probably have a hair trigger, a little bit of a short fuse. Just watch out, because if you don't want to start anything you can't finish. And you want to think ahead before you start things, because I know sometimes my mouth is bigger than my mouth is bigger than my bite. No, my bark is bigger than my bite, right? I'm a dog. I'm a bitch, right? So, you just got to be careful with that, because you can bite off more than you can chew and get yourself into, unfun conflicts. It was a typo. You were born in 1990. Okay, I'm sorry, Hector. I got you now. Alicia, this Mercury retrograde has been hard. Well, why has it been hard, Alicia? What sign is Mercury in for? Well, never mind, Taurus. But what's your rising sign, my darling? Alicia, what's your rising sign? And I'll talk about, I like to go back and forth. And Ashlyn, aren't you a Scorpio rising, Ashlyn? I think I've seen your chart tons of times. Anyway, I think I remember you're a Scorpio rising. Start memorizing people's rising signs by now. So lots of big changes. Yeah, well, Taurus is where solar eclipse was last year too. So you're a Virgo rising? You're a Virgo rising. Ooh. Virgo rising. I love Virgo risings. I think I say that about all the risings. Excuse me. So if you're Virgo rising, that's been your 9th house. So I wonder if there's anything to do with ideologies, worldviews, philosophies, or school, or, your own education. So that could have been something with this Mercury retrograde period for you. So, but anyway, we're talking about Uranus here. Well, not Uranus. Well, not my anus. Never mind. But you see, so that'll be a fun thing. I think you just got to be careful with your volatility, because you'll probably be a bit on edge. And you might feel like being spontaneous and fun is a good idea, but it could also, you could scare someone and cause them a heart attack or something. I'm not saying you that bad, but little practical jokes could go awry or haywire. You might be in a mischievous mood. So, but the really cool one is Pluto stations here in Aquarius. Pluto will be retrograde for a while. Gosh, why don't I have it written down? How long is Pluto retrograde? Don't I have that written down? Pluto. Oh, until October 10th. So this will be a fun time. So what do we expect to see with this? Well, with Pluto retrograde, I wrote down some keywords. I always write down some keywords. And excuse me, I'm going to eat this piece of, Mm. So I didn't get to eat lunch. I was so busy. I always say I'm so busy, but like I waste time. Excuse me, I should. Mm, 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 mm. That is a tasted burger. May I have some of your tasted beverage to wash it down? What does Marcellus Wallace look like? Does he look like a bitch? Pisces rising, your daughter Scorpio. I'm sorry, I love Pulp Fiction. Look at the big brain on Brad, the metric system. What does Marcellus Wallace look like? What ain't no country I ever heard of? They speak English in what? I used to say that to my daughter when she was a baby. Just, casual as a joke. Do you speak English? Anyway. I love that movie. So Pluto stations in Aquarius. I gotta stop. I'm just making myself laugh. It's terrible. That's just what I do most of the time is I'm just making myself laugh. If anyone else laughs, they're just purely incidental. So I hate to say it, but it's true. I'm a loner, Dottie. I'm a rebel. So no one probably remembers Pee-wee's Big Adventure. So anyway, I was born with Pluto retrograde, so I thought I'd look back around, well, I was born in May, but, we're looking here in June around Gemini season of 1983. And some interesting things. Oh, some key phrases I wrote down. So power struggles, think of these tug of wars or oppositions that happen when Pluto is retrograde. Challenges to power, things like that. Gollum. And then reversals, of course, of power. Digging up the past. Yes, that's another very Plutonian thing. So Margaret Thatcher in 1983, while Pluto was retrograde, the Conservative Party wins, right? That was a big deal because this started a lot of terrible stuff for the UK. Because, she was sort of like the conservative counterpart over there to Ronald Reagan over here. And they did terrible deregulation because, there was a big social safety net and labor support in the UK up until that point, that had sort of been persistent since the end of World War II, And, and sort of the same thing was happening in the United States. We were going towards deindustrialization, which happened in the 1970s. Right. And so this whole notion of pushing back against labor, the whole conservative ideology was about deregulation, which was really about anti-labor. It was the establishment strikes back, which I think I mentioned somewhere else too. So, oh, yes, the Supreme Court of the United States, the SCOTUS, struck down local and state abortion restrictions. So they were reinforcing Roe v. Wade, whereas now they're not doing that. One thing I thought was funny also was Ed and Lorraine Warren, if you're familiar with them from the Conjuring series of films, or if you ever got into paranormal investigation. They were very famous paranormal investigators and apparently exorcists. Right, and they exorcised some famous demons around this time, a werewolf demon or something, which I thought was kind of interesting. And the Supreme Court ruled you can't veto presidential decisions. So this is a power struggle, right, between the Supreme Court, between the Congress and the presidency, or the office of the president. Another interesting one. Oh, read their book. Whose book? Whose book did you want us to read? Yasser Arafat? Sorry. Oh, Margaret Thatcher. Did Margaret Thatcher write a book? Oh, the Warrens. Oh, that's what you're saying. The Warrens. Yeah. It's very interesting. I used to watch Lorraine Warren on, there was a program, Mac's wife and I used to watch called Paranormal State. They used to be on when people actually watched cable TV like 12 years ago. It was on, what was it on? Like the Biography Channel or TLC or something. But it was a guy named Ryan who went to Penn State and they would do paranormal investigations. And they would frequently have Lorraine Warren on. And it was always so interesting to see her because, I mean, she's apparently an actual medium, not a large, but a medium. I know, I make myself laugh. She was a medium, not a large. And, and they did some wonderful segments. You know, they were very compelling. And you know me, I'm Miss Incredulous. I'm a Saturn girl. I mean, at the time, I believed in all sorts of crazy things. You know, I believed ancient aliens was real and all that sort of bullshit, which, you know, now I'm a fangirl for archaeology and real science. I need evidence. But it was really compelling stuff. Oh, Chip Coffey. Yeah, Chip Coffey was the medium. You're right. Chip Coffey was great. I like Chip Coffey. They did a whole episode on the Mothman and the Mothman prophecy stuff. And it was really, really good, you know. And I remember Chip Coffey saying he sort of sensed that entity and that it was just intelligence, you know. And, oh, and that's a great movie to watch with Richard Gere, if you ever get to watch, and Laura Linney, the Mothman prophecies. Yeah, but Chip Coffey, good. Good memory. No one's going to remember this shit who watches this later. If any if any Gen Z people watch this, you're going to be like, what the? So anyway, it's funny at this time too, the PLO got rid of Yasser Arafat, but he would return later. So that's another power struggle thing that happened. Ooh, Oliver North. If anyone remembers Oliver North, he was a general who was engaged in the Iran-Contra affair with President Ronald Reagan, where they were selling weapons to Iran to fund the Contras in Nicaragua, which were basically a right-wing death squad who were murdering people in the name of, you know, foreign capitalism in the CIA. And they were, you know, they were essentially fighting the Sandinistas, who were a leftist fighting force. Ryan has had a lot of problems since the show. What happened to Ryan, D Nice? Sorry, you're D Nice now from now on instead of my Norwegian friend, because you've seen the. For those of you who haven't seen it, it's a joke from Key and Peele. D Nice. But what happened to Ryan? I would like to know. But just to carry on, Oliver North was involved in this whole thing with Ronald Reagan. And he took the fall for a bunch of them, right? So he got indicted on 16 felony counts for his role, right? I mean, there's stories and alleged stories, right, of Oliver North being involved with the actual cocaine trafficking too. Oh, Ryan got on drugs. Well, I mean, he was so involved. And that's the thing about all this paranormal and mystical shit. And this is why I tell all my clients, you have to keep your fucking feet on the ground, because the path, whatever this spiritual path bullshit is, it's littered with broken minds, with the shells of people who've gone nutso and cuckoo. This is why in the yogic tradition, you had to be an old man. In the Kabbalistic tradition, you had to be an old man. First of all, patriarchy. That's why they were men. Blah, right? We don't agree with that. But what they had to have done was had sufficient experience. They had to have been good householders. They had to have had their kids. They had to have had their, you know, families. They had to have had their jobs. They had to have proven themselves, like Christ said in the Gospels. He who is faithful in least is faithful in much, right? You know, I always say that, you know, for anyone who's a Mason, you could go and look up all the secrets of Masonry on the internet, and there's nothing to it. It's, you know, it's meaningless, but what gives it meaning is the symbolism, right? And that proving you're faithful in that which is least is an indication you can be trusted with that which is of greater value, right? And you know, there's I'm sorry, I totally lost my train of thought. But you see, there's a lesson in that, because as you know, as we get trusted, as we dig down deeper into reality, into life, you don't get anything more than more responsibility. That's all you get. You just get more responsibility. Makes us feel insane. Get lost. Yeah, exactly. And you have to be careful with that sort of nonsense, because I've seen spiritual people go off into la la land, including people very close to me or who were close to me. And it's not a judgmental thing. It's just you have to keep your feet on the ground. Aleister Crowley used to say that his students, and he's not the greatest example, but he used to say that his students would have their heads in the highest of heavens and their feet in the deepest of hells. As above, so below. We're trying to conform the outer to be as the inner. That's the whole story of the spiritual quest or whatever. That there is a pattern laid down in the heavens to which humanity must eventually conform. The Lord's Prayer says, "May thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven." Why would we pray for God's will to be done on earth if it already was? We're basically praying for thy will to be done on earth. And what's the implication? That we have to be the outposts of whatever that will is. And we have to be the agents for bringing that will about, whatever it is. And that's why we study astrology, to synchronize ourselves, our labors, with the greater labors in the heavens. That analogically, that we can look at the symbols, right, indicated in astrology, and that's just one facet, right? Anyway, I'll read that comment in just a second, but that this is just one facet of the mysteries, right? And what do we mean by mysteries, right? The revelation of truth, right? The revelation of how things exist, things as they are, as best we can. And the only way that you can typically do it, because our minds are so linear and concrete, the most effective way to do it is through symbolism. And symbols are intended to teach things and teach lessons or convey information that can't be readily conveyed in objective or literal ways. Symbols have their objective nature, but they also have, right, their symbolic nature. You can't use a word to define itself, but the meaning side of their nature, what they're intended to teach. There's the objective side and what they're intended to teach, which the objective side should indicate in some ways, right? We're only mentioning all that because that's what we're doing with transits here. So anyway, that's Pluto. Excuse me. Now, Venus enters Gemini. Oh, sorry. It's already in Gemini. She's already in Gemini. May the 4th, though, Venus in Gemini squares Neptune in Pisces. So Neptune, some keywords: deception, fantasy, idealism. Venus, right? We have beauty, love, creativity. She's my mama. Well, and my other mama is Marianne Williamson. So check out Mary. Oh, and like this goddamn stream if you haven't already. And please, 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 I'm trying to get more followers because I much prefer doing YouTube content. Facebook is tedious. It really is. And I much prefer doing videos and lives. And I'm trying to monetize this shit. I ain't gonna lie. Right? I'm trying to, I do several different ventures to make ends meet. And this one is not yielding any sort of income, but this is what I enjoy doing. And I would like to at least get a little bit of, recompense, because this is really what I enjoy doing. Although I get a lot of love on other platforms, adult platforms, which I can't mention because I'll get in trouble here. But that work is fun and it makes me confident in myself. And they tell me I'm beautiful, So anyway, Marianne Williamson. And like the stream the like, blah, 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 share, and all that fun stuff. But I mean, you guys are the usual, the usual suspects. The Kaiser Soze. You're my friends, so you're always here. And it's just preaching to the choir at this point. You have a best friend whose job is to keep you checked into reality. She self-assigned herself. She's an Aries Sun Virgo. Yeah, and that's an important thing. You don't want to get lost. I tell all my clients, If you have to choose between daily life and all this bullshit, you choose daily life. Your number one. For all my fellow parents out there, your number one is your children. Children always number one. Your spiritual stuff should never come at the expense of your children, right? They're number one. Ooh, I have no white noise. The sounds of silence. La da 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 da. God, that's so glorious. No white noise for a second. What am I doing? Okay. This is just like so awesome because I'm plagued by bad audio, as I frequently say. So anyway, keeping your feet on the ground is the number one thing. Number one's your children. Number two's yourself, because you have to be your best for your children, don't you? Number three, well, I mean, those are the two things. Your children and then yourself, right? And then other people, right? Because if you are really involved in a spiritual thing, you know, you'll spontaneously express all these revelations you have as service in some way. You know, and service looks like lots of different things, but one thing it isn't is personal, and it's not selfish. Ultimately, it is selfish because all selves are one with all selves, right? I mean, it's the theory behind all this nonsense. But you see, you'll be able to tell service because you're just spontaneously doing something. You see a need and you attend to it without really thinking about it. And you're not thinking like, oh, this will get me some props. You know, it's just like, oh, shit, here, you know, here. Well, I mean, it's all about balance. Yeah. Yeah. In the sense, it's all about balance in the sense that, you know, that's what the path is, right? You're not straying too far in either direction. It's very Libra, right? That's where conscious choice is made. And that's the symbolism of Libra, which, you know, I should talk about all the symbolism sometime where it comes from. Because, you know, the zodiac as we know it has to do with the cycle of light and dark, but this is a whole nother thing, right? But Libra's the choice, where we make the choice of whether to descend into darkness or to move into light. And the whole symbolism of Libra is that we do descend into darkness in Scorpio, but we choose to, right? It's sort of like the prodigal son. Or think about the whole Christ myth or the whole story of Christ. He descended into hell. This is the Apostles' Creed that all of us who grew up Catholic had to say. He descended into hell, right? You know, to redeem. And then he ascended into heaven, right? So it's this whole notion here of the redemption from hell. You don't know what's happened since January. You're doing things you never thought you'd accomplish. 34 years old, never drove me more than 40 miles. Out of a rural town, drove 263 miles on an interstate yesterday. Well, congratulations, my darling. Your rising sign. Well, and Denise, you're entering into a very interesting time in your life for a little bit. This is going to be a year and a half of, you know, some existential crisis stuff and big upheavals in your relationships. You might meet someone new. I think we've said that before to you, D Nice. So anyway, but you know, so Venus in Gemini square Neptune in Pisces. You know, I call this the siren song. Like things aren't what they seem, and also pleasant distractions. And so the last time this happened was, well, in the same signs rather. The last time in the same signs was July 13th of 2022. So two things I thought were interesting. Elon Musk tried to pull out of the Twitter deal, right? And they sued him. So, of course, he got stuck with it. Things weren't what they seemed, you know. And then a pleasant distraction, Elton John's final tour. I love Elton John. Love, I believe in love. No one knows that song by Elton John. That's my favorite one. You know, everyone knows like Benny and the Jets, or you know what? Actually, the Lion King songs are pretty good. My parents took me to see Elton John when I was 11 or 12. So, anyway, his farewell Yellow Brick Road tour was right around that time. At least the North America North American leg of it. So that's kind of, momentous and a pleasant distraction in some ways. Now, this lunar eclipse in Scorpio on May 5th. Remember, lunar eclipses are like big endings, right? They're like supercharged full moons. And we expect big endings typically. Now, this one goes back into Scorpio. We've just had a solar eclipse in Aries. So I think of these when they go back into the previous sign. Excuse me. I think of them as sort of like slowly closing the chapter. Now, I think we're going to have a couple other. I think we're going to have another lunar eclipse here in Scorpio. Excuse me. Or maybe it'll be in Taurus. It might be in Taurus. But we'll have it back on the same Scorpio-Taurus axis. And when that happens, we're putting nails in that coffin of those particular houses and that cycle that we've been going off of, right? So, things to do with, the houses that you find Scorpio and Taurus in for you. For me, it's the 4th and 10th house. So still straightening out this whole business thing I'm doing and my living situation in a new state. The state of hysteria. Anyway, excuse me. So look out for the house placements here. And we'll look at your charts and we'll talk about that in a second. Because I talk about solar eclipses primarily. But the lunar eclipses are important too. It's just, I'm a sun kid. I'm a sun baby. Well, I'm a moon baby. I was born at night, but I was born on a sun day. Who cares, right? But there is some symbolism around the day of the week that you were born on. So, and you'll see it related to the planet it relates to. So Sunday relates to the sun, Monday to the moon, etc., etc., etc. On May 7th, Venus enters Cancer. She'll stay there till June 5th. My Venus is in Cancer. We're so devoted, aren't we? We're so romantic. We're a bit nostalgic. Cancer's known for being nostalgic. Excuse me. And Venus. Oh, excuse me. Venus, of course, is beauty, love, and pleasure, enjoyment. Cancer is devoted, like I said, but it can also, like I said, nostalgic, but patriotic. You'll see that, the United States has a Cancer sun in the 8th house. George W. Bush, Cancer. There's tons of patriotic people who didn't have Cancer, but you'll see that sort of thing. Now, the signs and houses don't have relationships necessarily in terms of their meanings, but you'll see some overlap in terms of that home thing because the moon rules Cancer, and the moon, Vedic Valence even gives one of her significations as the household. So, you can see that. And so the homeland carries over with this patriotism thing. But you also see patriotism coming up in the 4th house with the homeland. So Cancer Venus, like we said, it's romantic and it's loyal, but we can be codependent. We can be zealous, right? Donald Rumsfeld was a Cancer Venus. Is he still alive? I don't know. But we can also be overly attached, So during this Cancer Venus season, we could see increased nationalism, which, that's sort of like a given. We're already seeing tons of it. I just read today that Republican voters care more about being anti-woke than combating inflation. And that, to me, is absolute insanity. What else do you call it? That's absolute insanity. Like, we're talking about putting food on your table, or we're talking about, the Little Mermaid being black. Like, holy hell. Can we enter back into reality? Snap back to reality. Oh, there goes nationalism. Oh, there goes the GOP. Snap back to reality. Oh, there goes the GOP. Excuse me. Sorry for all my coffees and for sounding like Gollum. So something else too, we feel more vulnerable during this time. Wanting affection, feeling that draw to giving affection sometimes too. I know Cancer Venuses, especially being one, that we're very affectionate and that we appreciate receiving affection too. Typically, we give what we want, right? So that's where we see what our love language is usually, because we'll see what we tend to give out to partners. And oftentimes, our love languages are not theirs. So what we're giving them is not necessarily what they want. And that's where communication. So if anyone wants to look at synastry too, we can always look at that, because that's another one of my specialties. I'm sure we'll do plenty of synastry streams in the future, even though we've already done two. So anyway, the feelings of vulnerability. You know, Cancer Venus is usually open to being vulnerable with people. Now, May 9th, the Sun conjoins Uranus in Taurus. So Uranus is the unexpected, like we talked about. The Sun is authority. So I would expect things like political surprises. And the Sun is judgment, so unexpected judgments and policies, right? So the last time this happened in the same sign was May of last year. And Nancy Pelosi led a surprise delegation to Ukraine to meet with Volodymyr Zelensky. Which, again, I mean, they said surprise. It was a surprise delegation. So, I mean, that's a political thing. Oh, and you know what else happened? The Dobbs decision was leaked. That was leaked. So that was the decision that overturned Roe v. Wade. And that's when it got leaked. So you can see a surprise judgment or unexpected judgment coming out there. And the Federal Reserve enacted the highest interest rate since 2000. You know, that's pretty wild. And higher interest rates aren't helping anyone, as you know. Right? I mean, for people who have lots and lots of money parked in, you know, CDs or money market funds or stuff like that, they're just accruing interest rates. Accruing interest or whatever, then, you know, it's probably nice. I mean, if you have enough money for that to be substantial, you probably don't even need the money anyway. But what does that, you know, what does that matter right now? I guess not a whole lot. So anyway, so what would I expect this time? Well, I'd expect another interest rate hike and more Ukraine stuff probably. And more stuff with abortion, because we're seeing that still go on right now. So we have the whole pill thing going on with mifepristone. So maybe we'll see some interesting judgments come out. But the Supreme Court has already said, let's keep it, right, consistent until they until this moves through other circuits. So for you personally, antagonism with authority figures. So watch out for tension with bosses, with dads, because the Sun is often dad. And the law, because the Sun is also the law. I fought the law and the law won. I fought the law and the law won. You'll want to not follow orders. You won't want to follow orders, right? That's an order. May 13th, Venus in Cancer makes a trine to Saturn in Pisces, right? Again, Venus, beauty and enjoyment. Saturn is boundaries and organization, right? Last time in the same sign was 1995 in July. It was when Comic-Con was going on, right? And that's sort of like organized enjoyment, isn't it? Oh, and they discovered Hale-Bopp comet, the comet Hale-Bopp. And it became visible just a year later. So that's interesting too. Scientific discovery. I mean, this time I would say, I mean, keywords that I think of for this is exhibitions, conferences, hobby shows. I mean, even like gun shows, because there's aesthetic to it. Projects. Ooh, this is what I say. Projects, decorations, workmanship or craftsmanship. So working on aesthetic projects, decorating, writing, art, beautiful stuff. That's what I think of with this Venus-Saturn transit. And then the next day, Mercury stations direct on the 14th. Hopefully that puts you back in a little bit of sorts after this retrograde detour, you know. Then Mars in Cancer, trine Neptune in Pisces, right? Mars is, you know, it's action and it's abrupt, whereas Neptune is sort of idealistic, but it can be misleading too. So, you know, last time in the same sign was May of 2021. So just after my birthday a couple years ago. Oh, this was around the time I came out. That's so interesting. So, and around that time, Biden suspended oil and gas leases to Alaska's Arctic Wildlife Refuge, which is sort of a big thing, right? That's, I mean, that's action with idealism behind it, isn't it? New York City began to reopen from COVID after several years, right? So, well, not quite so, a year and a half, right? Year and a half ish, 400 something days. And that is another idealistic action, isn't it? Like, come on, let's do this. And then there's a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas, right? Which is another sort of idealistic thing. Ceasefires, right? End to violence, idealism. And then May 16th, Jupiter enters Taurus. This is the one I think I'm excited about. Although, I mean, it depends on what house Taurus is for you. But still, Jupiter entering a new house for you, regardless, you're going to feel it. And this will be sort of a year-long transit. It'll happen May 16th, and I think until May 24th of next year. So, right, Jupiter's religion, philosophy, teachers, benefactors. I think of stewards or custodians. You'll see priests, right? But, stewards or custodians, people who take care of things. And abundance. Whereas Taurus is optimistic, right? Because it was increasing in the light, right? It's feminine, so a bit more passive. It's fixed, so it's a bit more unyielding, right? But it's in that time of year, right? Where Taurus it's opposite Scorpio, where the light is increasing. The light has taken over once again, where we get that sort of abundance, sort of symbolism that comes with Taurus and acquisition, right? Material things, because things are starting to grow. Excuse me. So you're going to want to look at the house placement of Taurus for you. I do whole sign houses, but if you want to do Placidus or whatever, just look at what house Jupiter will be entering for you. Now, if you do a quadrant house system, Jupiter still might be in the same house, which is very boring. So I suggest you do whole sign houses. Now, this could represent a change in management. And an example I picked was from June 2011. And that's when Christine Lagarde, the French politician, took over the International Monetary Fund as its first female manager, right? And so that's sort of like a stewardship position, you see, being head of the IMF. So this could indicate an area of life where you're receiving luck and abundance, right? That's why I told you to look at the house placement. Or you could be getting help or assistance, getting help from friends or people who care about you in some way or support your endeavors. Good luck in your future endeavors. So then May 20th, just before my birthday, we're getting closer to my birthday here. Mars enters Leo. Now, Mars, we know, is aggressive and conflicts and everything else. Leo is fixed again, right? It's a bit unyielding, of course, because all the fixed signs are, but it's ruled by the sun. So it's got that authoritative thing, right? It could be very possessive. You could see bullying, or what we would call, I guess, euphemistically, aggressive persuasion. Like, I'll make you an offer you can't refuse, right? On the day of my daughter's wedding, why you come to me? That's a bad Marlon Brando from The Godfather, right? The Godfather. Sorry. Oh, that was a good movie. You're obsessing over Pluto in the 12th. Oops. Ooh, I missed part of the chat. I'm so sorry. You don't know what's happened. Oh, you have a Cancer Venus to Alicia. The Ultra Right beer, May 11th, launches. Ultra Right beer. And you know what? It costs a bunch. And you have to order out for it. There's a month waiting period. I mean, I follow a bunch of, YouTubers who are going on about it. So I bet that guy bit off. Yeah, he did bite off more he could chew. He totally did. And I think it's silly. It's just, it's grifting. They're grifters, right? There's a big market now for anti-trans and anti-woke stuff, whatever that is. And this is the cultural thing that scares me, because I mean, and I can't say the G word, Gen O, right? But that's essentially one of the steps where you other people, you start to make them seem less than human. And I mean, gosh, the whole state of was it Virginia or West Virginia? They passed all these, sports laws for one athlete. There was one trans-scholastic athlete. Like, oh my God, this is a red herring. It's so that they don't have to talk about legitimate economic issues. They don't have to talk about inflation because they don't have a plan for inflation. What do Republicans want to do? They want to deregulate more. Now, to be fair, Democrats have done the same thing, but at least on paper, they're giving lip service to more regulation, so, and they're the party that doesn't want to unalive me at this point. So, and my mama, Marianne Williamson, to me, this is, urgent. This is, life or death situations here. So at least I live in the best state, even better than California, I think Colorado is right now. So, and I'm pretty proud of what my governor has done, but there's still a big cross section, of people here. I get looks all the time of people who do not look enthusiastic about my existence, but you don't know what people are thinking either. So things are getting scary. And this is part of Saturn and Pisces, which is this overarching background transit we're having. And I won't spend a lot of time on this, but it's important to acknowledge and to mention, because we are at the focus right now. We are like, yes, the whole LGBTQIA plus whatever community. I just say LGBT, but I mean, yes, we include queer people, we include ace people. I mean, we're all queer, Jesus, I mean, as far as the community, right? Aren't we all queer people? And ace, I is intersex, isn't it? We have to include intersex people. So, okay. Anyway, but you see, we're the central political thing right now. And the fact that a plurality of GOP voters, of Republican voters, think it's more important to be fighting woke ideology than it is to be combating inflation and the actual economic problems, that shit absolutely scares me, because that sounds like Germany again. And if we have a big economic crash again, it's just going to get blamed on this woke stuff. It's going to get blamed on black folks and trans folks and gay folks and Latinos and every scapegoat that they can think of. So anyway, so I don't mean to be depressing, because that's not the point of this. We're going to get to your charts. I'm just mentioning all this because it's the times we're living in. And we're living in historic moments, and you have a choice. We all have a choice of how we're going to live these moments. And when we look back on our lives, if we get an opportunity to, I don't mean to sound morbid, but if we get a chance to look back over our lives as old people someday, I think we want to recall that we did everything we could to stand up for our values or our principles, to stand up for goodness, for inclusion, and for, quite frankly, love. And I don't mean love in a sentimental, hippie trippy way. I mean in terms of your awareness that your existence depends on all others, and all other existences are integral to yours. It's interdependent. What the Buddhists would call dependent arising, that all things, all beings arise dependent on others. So anyway, that was my preachy moment for this moment. So, or for this time. Stop repeating yourself, girl. So like I said, Mars and Leo, just watch out for, it's good to assert your interests. Just watch out the amount of intensity you assert them with, because you don't want to get into conflicts that you don't need to, right? It's always good to stand up for yourself, but if you're starting a whole thing over someone moving your ketchup in the fridge or whatever, then you probably need to chill the F out, right? You're probably pushing it too much. And you also have to watch out with being possessive over partners, because that's something else that you see with Mars or Venus and Leo. So Leo can be quite authoritative. It's a great salesperson. No one sells bullshit like a Leo, you know. I think of what was the guy that passed away? He used to do OxyClean. Billy Mays here for OxyClean. It brightens, it shines, and OxyClean. No, wait, there's more. You know, I know Billy Mays and Mighty Mended. Like he sold all kinds of bullshit. What happened to the guy with the slap chops? Slap chop. None of you, no one remembers that. Like, this is millennial nonsense. You know? Gosh, millennial. Like, I'm going to be 40 next month. Like, when did watch, like, Smashing Pumpkins is going to be classic rocks. Oh, no. I bet Jane's Addiction already is. So, Sun entering Gemini, that's going to be fun. I already mentioned that, you know. Oh, you're a Leo Mars, 12th house. Well, does that mean you're a Virgo rising, Alicia? Oh, yeah, we already talked about that. So Mars in your 12th house. So that means Mars infomercials died with him. Yeah, they did. Like, you know who was doing infomercials on like QVC? Friggin' Milo Yiannopoulos, that Nazi. You know? I don't know if I can say that word. Oh, gosh. But yeah, anyway, he was doing infomercials. Dumbass. Vince with the slap chop disappeared. Yeah, he got slap chopped up. Right? He got slap chopped. Slap chop. I should play that one time. There was a remix like with auto tune of him doing slap chop. It was really, really funny. Oh my God, my voice sounds so bad. If anyone knows Harvey Fierstein, he was in Mrs. Doubtfire. He played one of the gay uncles, you know. Harvey Fierstein. He was in Death to Smoochie. I love that movie, Death to Smoochie. So anyway, so you have a Leo Mars in the 12th house, which means Mars rules your 8th house and Mars rules your 3rd house. So that's quite interesting. I wonder if you have a sibling who has mental illness or an addiction issue. And of course, I would wonder also if you had any mental illness or addiction issues or a criminal record of some sort. I would wonder that too. So, or if you did anything criminal growing up or in your youth. In my youth, I pray to keep. With Harvey who? Who do you share with Harvey Fire? Oh, with Harvey Firestein, who I was just talking about. You share a birthday with him? What is he? Is he a Virgo or a Libra? Or he just seems like he was born in the fall for some reason. My youth, I pray to keep. So Sun in Gemini is always fun, you know? I always have fun. It's like a playful, mischievous, optimistic time, it seems like. I mean, that's just me, you know? Activity, communication. Oh, and then my birthday is the 22nd. So, but let's look at some of your charts with the transits. No criminal record, but you like dangerous things and people. Well, you might have some mental health issues yourself. So, and I would try and stay away from drugs and alcohol, but you know, I don't know. Oh, you're a Gemini. 6-6. All you need is another 6. Down highway, sex. We want to go. Crush the slow as the pitchfork bends, the needles grow. So, who's here? Let's start doing this. Okay, so first is Alicia. Do I have Alicia saved? Alicia! Do we have Alicia saved? Alicia Silverstone. No, we don't have Alicia saved. Okay, never mind. Alicia, our home and native land. I don't know why she's Canada though. True is your love in all thy son's command. I don't know why I'm singing "Oh Canada." I have lots of friends in Canada. Maybe I'll have to be a refugee. I don't know if it's that much better in Canada for us. For us. All I want to say is that they don't really care about us. I love that song. All I want to say is that they don't really care about us. Michael Jackson. I was the biggest Michael Jackson fan as a kid. They used to have he used to have his own Sega Genesis game. As if. Yeah, this is gonna be lots of clueless jokes back and forth. You're a virgin who can't drive. I miss Britney. That's the real Britney, bitch. Although I do love Britney Spears too. I love me some Sagittarius. I think she shares the same birthday as one of my ex-girlfriends. Excuse me. So here, look at you, Alicia. Yeah, you do have that 12th house Mars. You do have that 12th house Mars. I guess it's almost opposite. Excuse me, I didn't mean to yawn. I'm sorry. I should cover my mouth. But I wonder about mom, if mom was a difficult person. You probably love children, I assume. But typically fifth house moon, we think that mom, was more interested in her own stuff. Maybe she liked to go out and party or gamble or have fun or something. I don't know. Or maybe she just had a temper, Song Tenderness by General Public, played on your shuffle, always made you think of Clueless. Oh, yeah. What was the Rolling with the Homie? What was that one? Or anytime Mighty Mighty Boss Stones, too. Mighty Mighty Boss Stones. They were in that a couple times. Yeah. So does your mom. 12th house. Your mom has anxiety. So, I wonder if she's got a temper, too. Just because Mars is sort of opposite the moon. Not a whole lot, but... Oh, Mars square Jupiter, so maybe... Oh, well, yeah. Well, Jupiter's spirituality, isn't it? But she probably had a tendency towards excess when she was younger. Well, the moon square Jupiter tends to go towards excess in all things in general. Like, they could be self-indulgent, And you can be self-indulgent probably too. So, we could probably see that in the mom, but I bet you're self-indulgent. So, she's a cat moon like you. Mr. Brown can moo, can you? Yeah, well, so cat moons, that's one of the most difficult moons, right? Because they want to open up and they can't. It's like it's like even when they really want to, it's this deep-seated, endemic, almost biological fear. Like their bodies won't do it. It takes a lot to butter them up and make them feel comfortable and safe. Then Saturn retrograde in the 4th house. Obviously, dad was not good, or there were issues with dad. And you have issues too, or you've had issues with your own boundaries and all that sort of thing. So, getting to know what you're willing to tolerate, as I frequently say. But let's look at the transits. Let's look at the transits. I want to see the transits, Daddy. Show me the transits. Look, got Venus right on your midheaven. Isn't that glorious? This should be a time to sparkle, right? To be visible and apparent, right? Maybe get a little recognition at work if that's in the cards. You probably felt like you had no life direction growing up. Excuse me. Like well into your 30s, you're like, I don't know what I want to do. you're in your mid-30s right now, but I don't know what I want to do, that kind of nonsense. And it's like now maybe you're finding more what your way is, right? You're finding more of the direction you want to move in, what pulls you, right? What you find an affinity for. What's Jupiter doing? Oh, and Venus is going to go into your 11th house, right? So that'll be Venus in Cancer, and you're going to have your Venus return. So this is a nice time. You definitely want to get out of the house if you can. I mean, if you want to be social at all, this is a great time to do it. So, very lost, but better now. Well, that's good. That's very good. Jupiter is going to enter your 9th house. So this will be great because, like I said, keep your feet on the ground, but this is also a time for like spiritual exploration and stuff like that. I mean, you could sort of meet a teacher or, find someone or follow someone. It could be a social media person or whoever that, introduces you to new ideas and things like that. And you start exploring and looking for new ways of thinking or new worldviews, that sort of stuff. Mars entering your 12th house, having your Mars return. This could be a time of feeling cut off from other people, which is sort of ironic in a way, right? Where you might be feeling more social just before that. But Mars sort of cuts things off, and you might abruptly sort of need to heal yourself or attend to your own depression or anxiety or mental illness in some way. So, I mean, that's a time where you might want to seclude yourself for a little bit, or other people just might agitate you. You would probably get drawn into conflict because you just wouldn't have the energy to deal with people like you typically would. So just be aware of that. Oh, and the lunar eclipse. Let's mention that. So that'll be back with your 3rd house here. So you were going between the 9th and the 3rd house this last eclipse cycle, which is all about, again, what we believe, our worldview, but also how we express that. And sometimes we'll see, school stuff or training or, some sort of learning or speaking projects, taking tests, right? Graduating things. We'll see all that sort of stuff play out in these houses too. So maybe perhaps you have to readdress an educational program you were dealing with, or, an expression, speaking or writing project, right? Excuse me. Or maybe you're communicating about something you've realized over the past, year and a half or so. But those sort of things could come into play. We should do someone else's now. We should do someone else's. Well, Venus will go through your 12th house too, right around the same, while Mars is still in it, So that'll start to ease the fire, right? So it could make the seclusion feel a bit nicer. You've been studying a lot for sure, tests, yes. Okay, well, so hopefully this will start to, because then we'll have another lunar eclipse, I think, in Taurus. In October, I think so. But you see, this is sort of closing the chapters on all that sort of stuff. Your first public speaking gig is November 18th. Oh, cool. So perfect. Perfect. Do. Francis. Do. Who was next? I think it was Hector. Hector, hopefully you're still here, my darling. My darling. My dear Hector. My dear Hector. 3, 4, 19, 90. Oh, my abs are sore. Did I get that from working out today? Should I put this up a little bit? Yeah. I don't want to show my. I back down now. See, for my other work, I always have it like way down. So. What time was it? What time was it? 1 a.m. 1 a.m. in Sinaloa. Sinaloa. Well, we'll see if you like it. Costa Rica. Villa de Costa Rica. Mexico. In Sinaloa. Villa de Costa Rica. Is it in here? Wait, Villa. Villa. It's in Sinaloa. Where's Sinaloa? I don't see Sinaloa on here. See, now I'm out of the Villas. I need a Villa in Sinaloa. Can I say Sinaloa on here? Sinaloa. Sinaloa. Are you sure? Is there another thing it's known as? Villa de Costa Rica in Sinaloa? Because it's not coming up, Hector. It's not coming up. Villa de Cos. What the heck, a deca? Sinaloa is a big place. Why isn't it coming up? Because Sinaloa is like a whole state. Why isn't it coming up? Let me look up here. What's going on? Villa de Costa Rica. Sinaloa. Oh, okay. They're just calling it Costa Rica. Okay. Costa Rica and Sinaloa. Cool. Okay. There we go. There we go. That's all we needed. I didn't need to say Villa. Okay. There's Hector. Yeah. Oh, now I see what you're saying. Okay. Now you tell me to call it Costa Rica, but I was already Google searching. Excuse me. Well, you're a Sag rising. Lovely. One of my favorites. Here, let me hold this again so we can have good audio once again. Oh, God. See, the audio sounding so good right now. So let him have it. Ounce of OE for Onoto Indonesia split. Sorry, I was listening to Brother Lynch Hung earlier. I found a new love trickling in my brain. Half of the doja, half of the Oli, half of the fact that I'm that insane. I grew up on that. I used to love Brother Lynch when I was in high school. So anyway, though, look at that. You got all that stuff packed in your second house. When you see Saturn and Mars there, though, typically you grow up poor, you know? Typically you grow up poor, and that can be a difficult thing, you see? And then, but you still might have some hefty spending habits, right? You probably still like to spend money. But you see, Saturn rules Capricorn and is at home there, and Mars is exalted in Capricorn. So there's probably still some sort of luck or facility with money. Your Jupiter is exalted too, and Jupiter rules your first house. Now it's in your 8th house, which isn't a great place to have your first house ruler. But, nevertheless, Jupiter's exalted, which is quite interesting. Now, you have to be careful because a lot of times when I see the first house ruler in the 8th house, I think, or vice versa. But typically like this, I think of suicidal ideation. So hopefully you don't have any of that. Yeah, I'm sorry, Hector. Oh, I should have said the S word. Oh my God, I said the S word. Oh, I ruined my live stream. I can't say this stupid ass S word. Ooh. But you struggle with stuff. about hurting yourself, you know. Anyway, self-harm, just we want to be careful of that. Maybe you would have luck in criminal enterprises. I don't know. Maybe you would find luck being a drug dealer. I don't know. Why is, you know, all these notifications? I swear to goodness. Notifications. Turn that off. Okay. Oh my goodness. Well, and Mars rules the 12th house too. So that makes things a bit more difficult, doesn't it? And, well, in the 5th house. So I wonder if you have, if one of your children is lucky with money at some point. If you have children. I wonder if you have a child that's lucky with money. But at least for you, you might make money from gambling, or you might be interested in gambling, or have a business, small business people, sometimes that sort of thing. Sex work, or people who play sports or something like that. I mean, that's why we say gambling. But it doesn't have to be any of that, of course. You can see people who are elementary school teachers, people who work with kids in some way. Anyway, but we should look at the transits. I mean, I would imagine that your homeland is big for you. You're probably a bit patriotic with your 4th house sun, or at least your genealogy and your roots would be important to you. Excuse me. You don't have children yet? Well, I'm not sure what your sexual orientation and stuff and all that is, but if that's something you're interested in, I would see it as being, a fruitful or lucky endeavor. I mean, you'd probably have, I'm not saying you'd have you'd have the greatest time having kids. Having kids is hard. I don't care who you are. Having kids is difficult. But, I mean, you'd have more of a fruitful endeavor than a lot of other people would. So, because you have a very well-placed 5th house ruler. So anyway, but let's look at some transits. Oh, I wonder if did dad pass away when you were younger? Did dad pass away when you were younger? I wonder about that. Or if there were any issues with dad in particular. Excuse me. You probably don't have luck with relationships either, because Mercury is your 7th house ruler and he's not happy. So I imagine it's been sort of tough on the relationship front, hasn't it? Right? I mean, you want a relationship, you want a partner, you want to feel safe with someone, but you've either had people lie or people. Oops, my headphones came out. Your dad's still alive? Okay, good. Anyway, but I doubt you've had a good time with the relationship front. So, well, Mercury in Pisces anyway. It's like you see in your head what you'd like to express, but you can't. There's this wall up around your expression. You have difficulty speaking. Oh gosh, that silence sounds so good in the background. You have no clue. I'm always hearing like, you know. Okay, let's look at the transits for Hector. My voice sounds absolutely terrible. Not a tri-wheel. I want a bi-wheel. Tri-wheels get two. I mean, that's like, it's a bit much, isn't it? Tri-wheel. So anyway, well, Mercury's been retrograde in your 6th house. So you may have gotten some unpleasant health news. Or maybe you've been trying to make appointments and appointments get canceled. Stuff like that could go awry. But usually we'd expect it to have something to do with your health situation or maybe your work, daily grind, stuff that you have to do. The sixth house is often the things that we don't want to do, but we have to do them, obligations and stuff, chores, going to work. But career is often 10th house, what you're known for. So anyway, you could have had setbacks around your job. What? You live in the same house, but you're not really close. You're very introverted, you could say. I have a quite eloquent and fluent vocabulary, at least in Spanish. Oh, yeah. I mean, I can't say a whole lot in Spanish. I don't have a very eloquent vocabulary. So I think what you say in English is very good. So, and thank you for telling me I'm pretty. I appreciate it. So, um, gosh, my stupid voice. And Venus has been conjunct your moon. This is so lovely. So, I mean, if you ended your seventh house, if you had a time to go out and try and meet people, this would be it. You should, be on dating sites or going to dances or clubs or something. I don't know. I don't know what young people do nowadays because I'm an old crone hermit who's about to be 40. So I don't know. I got to get out and have fun. Ooh, I matched with a couple earlier, I think, on one of these apps. I like couples. Couples. I mean, if I meet someone who shares the same interests, whatever. But in the meantime, I like couples. That's a Gemini thing, isn't it? Excuse me. But so speaking of Gemini, Venus is in Gemini in your seventh house. So this is a time when you should be out trying to, share your fluids with people. You should be sharing your fluid, your fun fluids, not your bad, not your smelly fluids, So, but your fun fluids. Now, Mars has been going through your eighth house here. So that can be a little bit difficult too. A lot of times we spend too much money or we put too much on our credit cards, Yeah, you should get out there and date a little bit, my darling. Your seventh house ruler is Mercury. Yeah, because typically, and Saturn is sitting on your Mercury right now. So, it probably is felt a little bit too, like on the work front or something, that things have been slow, or that maybe that you've been bogged down with tasks or work. It's been busier than usual, perhaps. Or maybe you just haven't had the time. I mean, you haven't been able to do what you want to do. There's been restrictions somehow on your thinking and speaking activity. You're hoping for some fluid sharing. Yeah, you should be doing that. You should be out there doing that. You should be draining your fluid. So anyway. And Pluto is right on your Venus. So this is a big momentous time for you. This is totally changing the way you relate to others. I had Pluto opposite my Venus for a long time, and it's sort of similar. I got divorced during mine. So hopefully this sort of, you're going to go through some uncomfortable changes here, little butterfly. You're going to get hurt probably. And this is a good thing because you're probably a bit of a pushover with the seventh house moon thing. You can't throw yourself at, I'm assuming you're into ladies, or maybe you're gay. I don't know. Or maybe you're pansexual like me and have sex with kitchen equipment. But if you're into ladies, because Venus does symbolize ladies, right? And you have Pluto going over Venus here too. So the way you relate to ladies and everything is going to be totally changed. And it happens through being hurt because you got to get over being scared. And I take it, I just have a feeling you're probably scared of the people you're attracted to, or when you get attracted to someone, you get nervous or something like that. Okay, bye. Okay. Well, when you're attracted to someone, you probably get all anxious and nervous and stuff like that. So, um, Oh, that's what I was going to say. So this is a time, when you come out of your shell a little bit over the next, what, year or so, next year or two. Uh, but you relate to people, especially to women, and in relationships in general, in sexual situations and encounters, that's all going to be changing. So maybe you get more comfortable with yourself, come out of your shell a bit. I think I already said come out of your shell. There's certain phrases I repeat way too often. Well, so that's the Pluto thing. Saturn going through your fourth house, you might have schisms with your parents in some way, or difficulties with your living situation. There's many ways that could manifest. Like landlords are a pain in the ass, aren't they? They can be complete assholes. Um, but the parents thing too, and you're still relatively young, so it's not. I doubt one of them is going to be having terrible health issues. But you could have strained relations in some way. Excuse me. Sounds great and a bit scary. Well, I mean, if you're a fearful type person, yeah. If if relationships are something that typically scares you or makes you anxious, then yeah. You know, like for me, that was a big thing. Going through another terrible, terrible situation made me a lot less nervous about the future, and also made me like, you know what, I'm not really interested in having a serious long-term thing unless the right person comes along, you know. Because who wants anyone telling them what to do unless you're a submissive? And I'm not a submissive. I'm a dominant princess. Although I do like being submissive in the right circumstances, but I'm usually topping from the bottom. So, you know, yeah, I don't know. I like the right circumstances. I mean, the right woman, especially, dominating me is I'll shut my mouth right quick. And I suppose the right man, I don't like overly, people who try to be super masculine. Just like settle and be yourself, you know. You don't have to be, oh. In fact, that's annoying, isn't it? But gosh, Venus conjunct your moon. Lovely, lovely, darling. The lunar eclipse here is going to be in your 12th house. So hopefully that'll start to, put a nail in the coffin of your isolation. I mean, I take it that since October of last year, you probably felt quite lonely and quite alone, or like you needed to heal. You needed to heal. Um, yeah, healing time, going into your cocoon, needing to, learn to process all these big changes you've gone through. And a lot of times that's best done when we're sort of isolating ourselves, because people will sort of intrude and we're still sort of fragile and malleable and vulnerable. And people could just cause lots of trouble, when they try and insert themselves into our situations. I don't think you went to prison, but that's always a literal way to read it, that you could have been incarcerated or, interned in some way. Well, you've been a hermit since COVID started. I think a lot of that has been, well, Saturn was going through your third house. So I don't know if you have any siblings or if you had any issues with your siblings, but that could have been a theme. But it also isolates us in a way, because the third house is also friends. It's extended family too, like, aunts and uncles and cousins. But it's also our communication and our community. And so when we feel cut off from our immediate community, that's very sort of isolating and being a hermit, isn't it? But hopefully now you're coming out of that as Saturn has gone into your fourth house. And now you're probably feeling, feeling a bit distant from your parents, or feeling like, estranged from your homeland, or disaffected, right, with what's been going on around you. Um, it's like the crisis of Saturn in the third house. It can bring on that sort of, well, it can be difficulty with school stuff too, with tests and trials, and graduation and degrees and things like that. But then it goes into the fourth house where, things are much more internalized. I mean, there can be literal things that have to do with real estate. And like I said, landlords and things like that. But there's also that sort of divorce from the past thing that happens, where you're sort of disillusioned with your family, or your family identity, with your genealogy. It could be a weird sort of thing, especially for a fourth house sun, someone who's probably idealistic about their background in some way. Anyway, we should do one more, or see if we could do some more here. Do some more, do some more. Me more, tell me more, like, did he have a car? Did he have a car? Tell me. Tell me more, like, did he have a car? Who is next? Let's see who's on here. I don't want to miss anyone. Ultra right beer. That shit makes me laugh so much. We did Alicia. We did Hector. We did who? Where's someone else? Who do we want? Someone else. When do we want them? Now. Someone else. Who do I see? Savannah. Savannah turned 18 on 666. That's awesome. Yeah, I was in college. That's around the time I started dating my ex-wife. The song Tenderness. Tenderness. Oh, Leah. Okay, we'll do Leah. If Leah's still here. Are you even still here, Leah? Leah Francis. Well, I know I've done your chart before, so I should have yours on file. Leah. Just going to look at transits really quickly for Leah. And then I'll look at Savannah. Don't worry, Savannah. I got you, girl. Leah, Las Vegas. Leah, Las Vegas. Leah, Las Vegas. Well, hopefully you didn't get pregnant. Hopefully you don't get pregnant. I'm just joking with the Sag risings, because the eclipse in the fifth house, and it was conjunct your sun and your sun and your Mercury. Oh God, my arms look too big. Ugh. I've been exercising again, and I'm mostly lower body, but like you have to do upper body too, and it's like, oh, I don't want big biceps or anything. You lose muscle mass on estrogen, but not that much. Excuse me. So you had this wonderful fun eclipse in your fifth house. So yeah, just watch out for getting pregnant. Just watch out for getting pregnant. Look at your bi-wheel. Oh, and you're having your Saturn return. You little youngin'. God, I'm jealous. I wish I were. I wish I came out during my Saturn return. Although I was getting married during my Saturn return. So. which is sort of ironic because I got divorced 7 years later. Excuse me, sorry. You know, in 7 years is a quarter turn of Saturn. So let's view the bi-wheel. Oh, sorry, cat. Did I disrupt? Oh, I'm sorry. Did I break your concentration? Oh, sorry. That's Pulp Fiction again. What ain't no country I ever heard of? They speak English in what? English, motherfucker. Do you speak it? Sorry, I had to say that once. I used to love saying that. I used to work with a chef, and we used to say that back and forth, you know, in the restaurant biz. So, anyway. Oh, well, you have Venus going through your 7th house too. So look at you, darling. I wonder if you've been able to get wet lately. So hopefully you have. I'm sure you have. So with all that 5th house stuff, like, you know, whatever. Jupiter going through the 6th house. This is definitely time to get back on the swing of regularity when it either comes to your health and wellness or Royale with cheese. That's right. You know why they call it the Royale with cheese, Brad? The metric system. Look at the big brain on Brad. The metric system. Excuse me. Josie, you do have to put your birth time though, too, my darling. And we'll try and get to you. We have one more person before you. Oh, there you go. Okay. Oh, in Ontario. Oh, Toronto. Okay, cool. I have friends up there. Excuse me. But Jupiter going through your 6th house is a time to get stuff done. Like to do all this shit that you don't want to do. You got to start. You did have a huge fight with your friend around the eclipse. Well, you know, it was opposing your 11th house. Your 11th house moon, especially. So there's something to that, too. 5th house, 7th house. Oh, you're in a long-term relationship. Okay, good. Cool. Very cool. You caught COVID last week for the 6th house stuff. Well, that's Mercury retrograde, isn't it? In the 6th house. Mercury rule. Ooh, who rules your 6th house? Venus does. Was anyone aspecting? Who was aspecting? Oh, Mars was aspecting Mercury. So Mars is sextile Mercury right now, at least. You know, Mars rules illnesses too. Mars rules illnesses. Well, and injuries. And you see that all that's imported into the 6th house, isn't it? So I was just trying to see if anyone's aspecting because I got Mercury Uranus stuff and I got COVID. What's Uranus doing to you? What's Uranus doing to you? Well, you have Mercury in Aries. What else? Is Mercury doing anything else? Anything else? Anything else? Jupiter? No. Huh. Huh. Is anything aspecting Venus? Is anything aspecting Venus? Oh, I guess Mars is kind of aspecting Venus. Because Venus rules your 6th house. Or the moon. The moon is the body. Body. Mars is square the moon. Mars is square your moon. But I still think that Venus and Mars thing. Mars is coming up to do that trine with Venus. Although Venus is in the superior position, isn't she? Well, maybe you start feeling better soon here. Because Jupiter goes into Taurus around the 16th? So hopefully that'll be a time when you start to feel better and more alive again. Because you probably have felt quite drained over these past few, you know, I mean, especially since last spring. So, well, anyway, but the um, lunar eclipse is going to be in your 12th house. So there's still some isolation stuff going on. We're sort of bringing it close to the isolation time, hopefully. You know. Okay, let's look out. Let's look at Savannah. 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 I'm gonna type one-handed. Oops, not Savannah. Savannah. I used to have a family friend who had a stutter. God bless him. I miss him. He passed away in 2019. Was it 2019? Yeah. And he had a dog named Avila, named after Saint Teresa of Avila. Yeah. And he used to say, Avila, Avila, Avila. Go around the house. He actually lived in Colorado. He was a holistic healer. Did very good work. Very, very good work. I've never met anyone who can that good and effective at healing as he was, which is a shame because I could really use some of it. I could really use some sexual healing. No, I wouldn't get that from him, but in the meantime, I'll have to settle for sexual healing. Indiana. Salem. I was thinking of Erie, Indiana. I used to watch that show. If anyone remembers Erie, Indiana, what was it on? What channel was it on? Was it a Nickelodeon thing? Erie, Indiana? Excuse me. Indiana. Salem in which county? There's Salem Center, Salem Heights. Salem. Which Salem is the Salem? Oh, Washington. You wrote that. Okay, sorry. Okay. So Aquarius rising like me, look at you. So Saturn's going through your second house. I hope your money situation is doing okay. I'm super stressed about money. So that's why I'm stressed about all this, everyone liked the fucking stream and, share it and shit. All that fun stuff, because I'm really worried about money. And it's like, remember that song, Every Day I'm Hustling, Every Day I'm Hustling, 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 Hustling. Like, I gotta keep finding ways to pay for things. So Jupiter is already in your fourth house, or Jupiter's already in Taurus for you in your fourth house. So you're going to be having your Jupiter return, which is fun. It happens every 12 years or so because Jupiter's got a 12-year cycle. And you could see some good luck when it comes to your living situation, whereas the Saturn people are seeing difficult times, right? You could also, though, have something good happen with your parents. Maybe you rekindle a relationship, or maybe they have some good luck with you, or maybe you get to maybe they help you out with your living situation, or they co-sign for something. But I'd expect this to be a good thing for you. I mean, you also have your part of fortune in the fourth house, which means maybe the parents hooked you up with some money here and there, and you probably spend money pretty frivolously, or you have a tendency to be a bit liberal with your funds. So that's something you want to watch out for, because now Saturn is going through your second house, and Saturn's going to force you to put the kibosh on some of that stuff, or at least rein yourself in. Saturn in the second house forces us to be frugal. Like right now, I'm like, okay, where can I cut? Where can I cut spending? Getting rid of subscriptions and things like that. Do we need Disney Plus? Do we need Netflix? Do we need both of them? Stuff like that. Some people might be like, oh, I don't even have any of that. Like, look at you, la-di-da, Miss Princess. but I got a kid. We mostly just watch YouTube now, both of us. So anyway, but you see, this is the sort of stuff that you'd have to attend to. So prepare to get more frugal, or prepare to start looking, at the bargain section of the grocery store and the clothing store. For me, I only shop at Ross, or I haven't seen Marshalls here, but Ross, Marshalls, TJ Maxx, those kinds of things. Those are the only places I shop at now for clothes. I'll buy something here or there at Target if I see it, or gosh, I wish I could go to H&M. I bought a couple things at Old Navy when I took my daughter there because they have the best kids' clothes. Excuse me, but yeah, but really it's mostly just Ross or Marianne Williamson. So, um, oh, and you're a Gemini too, so it's your season too. It's our season, and we can go crazy if we want to. Don't mind if we do. So your birthday's in June. Your birthday's coming up too, my sweetheart. Now, when it comes to children, did you have something difficult happen with your children? Or was childbirth painful in some way? I'm thinking of the Chiron there. Or did you have a miscarriage at some point? But otherwise, kids are very important to you, aren't they? Although Mercury retrograde, see, you have Mercury in Gemini, where Mercury is very happy. But being retrograde, it turns him on his head. So anything good that Mercury would do for you, and he also rules your 8th house. So anything good that Mercury would do for you would happen later in life, typically. Well, let's look at this really quick. Let's look at this. When did Mercury... No, days. When did Mercury go direct? When did Mercury go retrograde? When did Mercury go retrograde? I'm just wondering here because oftentimes we'll see retrograde planets start doing their good stuff. When they go direct by progression. I'm just going to look at this really quick. So when did your Mercury go direct by progression? So it would have been in 2006. So that's a while ago. So that would have been good momentous time. And then your progressed Venus station direct in 2016. So that must have been a good time too. Well, not necessarily good, but I would have expected it to be mostly good. Savannah. You're a Saturn ruled person too, my darling, and your Saturn's in the 12th house in retrograde. So loneliness is the name of the game, isn't it? You're accustomed to isolation, right? Maybe depression too, a little bit. I hurt myself today to see if I still feel. I focus on the pain, the only thing that's real. So, just be careful about that kind of stuff. Having your first house ruler in the 12th house can be difficult. We can be self-destructive sometimes, Be our own worst enemies. You want to stay away from drugs and alcohol. Well, everyone has to have their thing, right? But just be careful with all that stuff because, you may have an addictive personality. And you could have it all. So anyway, you're having your Venus return too. This is fun. Venus going through your 5th house. Venus is going through my 5th house too, but I haven't gotten out very much. So this would be a great time for you to meet people, though, if you'd like to, get wet, share your fluids, all that fun stuff. Mars going through your 6th house. Just watch rushing around, watch getting into accidents, watch getting cut. You don't want to get cut. Be careful with knives, things like that. Saturn, we talked about Saturn. We talked about Jupiter. Oh, and you're going to have we talked about Venus. This is all about fun. This is all about fun. Now, the great thing is we're going to have Venus go into Leo in June. And Venus is going to stay there for 4 months. And that's our 7th house. So this is really the great time to meet people for us. So, I'd like to meet a couple, maybe. A couple couples. Who else do we miss? Oh, the eclipse. So it's going to be in your 10th house. So you've already had big beginnings and endings when it came to your living situation and your work, probably, or your life direction in general. You could have quit a job, you could have found a new job, left a job, just totally. For me, I'm Aquarius rising too. I quit my job at 20 years to do this, I saved up to be able to do this for a little bit and see how it works, right? So that's why I need everyone's help. But that's what can happen, you see, changing life direction, starting a new venture or whatever. But you could have moved too, right? You could have had a whole new sort of situation pop up where you had to move. Again, the 4th house is also our parents, right? But I usually see things where people move with them. I moved out of state. So what else are we missing? Oh, and Pluto entered your 1st house. So now Pluto's not going to be conjunct your ascendant for a long time. He's going to be conjunct my ascendant for the next few years. But you can expect big changes, right? And people say that kind of stuff very glibly, like, oh, you're going to change, you're going to transform. No, but seriously, we expect to be shattered. By within 10 years from now, you're not going to be the same person whatsoever. You're going to be recognizably different. Oftentimes, our appearance can change quite a bit, for any number of reasons, hormones in my case or whatever, but it's a big time. Now, it's an angular house. Our sense of identity changes. But this is such a slow, gradual thing. This is 20 years. But you'll see crescendos when it crosses your ascendant. So, just be aware of when that is. I mean, this is years down the line. So this is 2031, right? 2031. So be aware. 2031. Where's Uranus? Where's Uranus? Oh, he's still in Gemini there. So while Uranus is in Gemini, this is going to be a difficult time for all of us, especially in the United States. So just to let you all know, but I've talked about that before. You need isolation. You need to listen to Nine Inch Nails frequently. I'm a big Nine Inch Nails fan. Lay my hands on heaven and the sun and the moon and the stars while the devil wants to fuck me in the back of his car. Maybe I'm all messed up. Maybe I'm all messed up in you. Anyway, I love that song. You lost your job after 30 days making bank. It's scary. Oh gosh, I'm sorry. One child easy, second was infertility. Yeah, that sounds pretty indicative of that placement. The guy from Hocus Pocus. What guy from Hocus Pocus? Oh, the kid. What did he star in? What did he star in? I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, I'm a big Nine Inch Nails fan. I saw them with Jane's Addiction back in 2009. This isn't even your final form. You're so used to chaos. Well, no, our final form is just nothing. Nothingness. Erie, Indiana. You remember Erie, Indiana. Yay. I used to love that show. Anyway, please like the stream. I'm getting hungry, so I have to go eat. But thank you, everyone, and share this because this was fun, going over astrology for May. I should have done like for each rising sign. I guess I'll do a video of that later, or at least when something enters something else. I love entering things, But anyway, I love you all so much. It's always so wonderful to see you all. So thank you for being supportive. And I would really appreciate it if you shared and subscribed and did all that wonderful stuff. Subscribe to the channel, share the stuff, comment, tell me what you think if you're watching this later. So it's only been 2 hours and 11 minutes, so I didn't go 3 hours today. Okay, and we had good audio. We had good audio for most of the time. I love you all. Have a wonderful whatever you're having. Bye.